Divine mercy and high moral standards. Today's gospel passage describes Jesus being merciful to a woman who had been caught in adultery. Jesus is merciful to the woman by assuring her that he does not condemn her. The gospel passage also presents Jesus as being faithful to high moral standards, specifically that adultery is a very bad sin and is not to be committed. With his last words to the woman, Jesus indicates his expectation that all are held accountable to high moral standards. Jesus' last words to the woman are, "Go and do not sin again." Jesus is consistently presented throughout the gospel as being very merciful and very morally demanding. Another example of Jesus being very merciful and very morally demanding is how Jesus was merciful to the tax collector Zacchaeus, who, as a chief tax collector, and collaborator with the Romans, abused his own people by unjustly demanding high taxes from his own people. However, Jesus did not ignore Zacchaeus' injustice. Zacchaeus responds to Jesus' high degree of mercy, coupled with Jesus holding a high moral standard for Zacchaeus to follow by publicly declaring, "Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold." Jesus teaches us by word and example that the best way to bring about conversions is by being both merciful and at the same time maintaining high standards. Being a faithful disciple of Jesus does not mean being very merciful while at the same time requiring very low moral standards or no moral standards at all. Conversely, being a faithful disciple of Jesus does not mean holding very high moral standards while being harsh and not merciful. Jesus shows us the way to be very merciful and at the same time upholding high moral standards for all, beginning with ourselves. The high moral standards, though, only can be lived up to by relying on grace, by relying on divine assistance. By our baptismal graces, we are called not only to imitate Jesus' high degree of mercy and high moral standards, but also to participate in Jesus' very life. In the words of St. Paul, sharing in Jesus' sufferings, being conformed to Jesus' death, that we may attain the resurrection from the dead. As an extension of Jesus' merciful and just presence in the world, the Church, states Bishop Barron, and I quote, "is extreme in its demands and is extreme in its mercy. It holds up a very high objective moral ideal, and it has a very high sense of compassion and care for those struggling to integrate that high moral ideal. It is not a zero-sum game, according to which, if you dial up the ideal, you need to dial down the mercy. It does not work that way. The logic of Catholicism is a radical both-and logic. We make an extreme demand and we express an extreme mercy." May God bless you all.